I'm Matt Stubbs with the band GA-20 from Boston, Mass.
Awesome. GA-20 draws inspiration from classic blues and R&B. What initially sparked your interest in these genres and led you to form the band?
I grew up in a household. My father is a guitarist, so I grew up with his band, rehearsing at the house and going to his gigs. And when I was 13, I picked up guitar. First he showed me some things, then I took lessons, and then by 16 I joined his band. Maybe it was 15 or 16, and I've ever since loved blues music and rock and roll, and that's what he was always into, and he was a big influence on me.
Okay. Your music has been described as a blend of vintage sounds with modern twist. How do you strike a balance between paying homage to the past while bringing your own unique style to the forefront?
It's a good question. We love all these blues styles from the 50s and 60s. This band specifically really leans into Chicago blues. As far as making it modern or our own, we just try to do our interpretations. We don't try to copy what all these artists and our influences did. We try to listen to what they did, and when we write music, just use that as inspiration and have our own sound. That just kind of happens naturally.
Okay. Can you tell us about your creative process when writing songs? How do you capture the essence of blues and R&B while infusing your own personality into the music?
Well, traditional blues has a vocabulary, I think, that we draw from. I don't want to say rules, but there's a vocabulary when you listen to all these old albums and records and artists. So it stems from there, and then usually myself or Pat will come up with a riff or an idea or a lyric. We'll demo it out on our own, and then we share it with each other. Then we get together as a band, as a trio, and start arranging it, working on it, and then for the most part, we start playing it out live before we record it. So see how the audience responds, see how it feels on stage, and then we go ahead and record it.
Okay. GA-20 has a raw and authentic sound that harkens back in the early days of blues. How do you maintain that vintage feel in your recordings and live performances?
When we record, we typically record with traditional old school techniques. We're all live in a room for the most part. It's not like the drummer plays his part and then we overdub the guitar and overdub the other guitar and overdub the vocals. We try to capture live performances in the studio, and we use vintage gear. So most of our amplifiers that we're using are from the 50s or 60s. Same thing with the guitars and drums. And we try to do the same thing with a lot of the microphones. I mean, there's some new microphones, but typically a lot of the drum sounds, guitar sounds, we're using microphones that were made in the 50s.
Oh, awesome. Your debut album, Lonely Soul, received widespread acclaim. What was the inspiration behind the album, and what stories or emotions did you aim to convey through your music?
That was our first record, and we were trying to capture the spirit of 1950s Chicago blues, maybe veering into the early 60s a little bit, but mostly it was like a lot of chess records, again, recording it live, and focus being around the song rather than a guitar solo. Some of the songs don't even have solos, so they're all pretty short, 3-minute songs, not unlike all those chess records.
And how has your approach to songwriting performing evolved since your release of that album?
Well, we put out 3 other records, I think, since then, and we got another one that's done and about to come out, and we're writing the next one. So I try not to ever want to make the same record twice. So Lonely Soul, as much as I like it, the next record was Crackdown. Actually, the next record we released was a tribute to Hound Dog Taylor, but the next original album was Crackdown. And so we allowed some other influences to come in there. We were all listening to country music a lot, and R&B, old 50s and 60s R&B, and rock and roll. So there are some songs on Crackdown that definitely, I don't think they'd be mistaken for Chicago blues. It sounds a little bit more like garage rock at times, and country.
Okay. GA-20 has gained a reputation for electrifying live shows. Can you share any memorable experiences or interactions with the audience during your performances?
I mean, for me, the band, our favorite thing to do is play live. We make records because we want to record it and have it for the history of the band. But really, for me, making the records are a platform and a vessel to reach people so we can play for them live. So every show's special. Every venue is different. Every audience is different. But blues music, jazz music, country music, I think all that stuff really it's a live art form. So every, it's very different from a festival like we're going to play today, or playing a small club or a theater. They're all different, but I think GA-20 is definitely a live band.
Awesome. And as a band deeply rooted in the blues tradition, how do you stay connected to the rich history of the genre while pushing its boundaries and bringing something fresh to the table?
Well, I mean, the freshness, I think, is just that we're our own band, and Pat has a unique voice, and we're all approaching it from our influences, and I think it becomes fresh that way. And again, I'm just trying to draw from my influences, and when I listen to a record, the spirit of those records, like a Hound Dog Taylor record or Buddy Guy record, I'm never going to be as good as those artists, but they influence me a lot, and I love the music, so I like to try to write music within that style.
Okay. GA-20 has also been hailed for reviving and reimagining classic blues tunes. How do you select which songs to cover, and what elements do you aim to bring out of these renditions?
Well, well, covers, if we're picking a cover, like we're working on a record right now, we were picking out some new covers that we hadn't played. For that, in that instance, I'm thinking about the album. I produced the record, so I'm thinking of just the flow of the album. Like, are we missing a slow song? Are we missing a fast song or whatever? And then digging down and just trying to find really cover songs that I like. We try to play music we like. And so for making records that way, and it's very similar live application. If we're building a set and we want to add a different vibe or energy to the set, we draw from that.
Okay. Collaboration is an essential aspect of the blues genre. Have you had any notable collaborations with other artists, and how did these experiences influence your creative process?
So our first single we ever released, we were lucky enough to have Charlie Musselwhite play harmonica on it, who I've played guitar with Charlie for 15 years now. And we also had Luther Dickinson play slide on that one, who's from North Mississippi All-Stars, an old friend of mine as well. So it's hard to beat that when your first single are those two guys on it. Since then, the only other collaboration we've done recording is we have a new single coming out next, it's July. It's a cover song called Still as a Night, and it's our friend Andy Bell, and it's a duet with Pat and Andy. So that's coming up, but we really haven't done too much collaboration with recording yet.
Okay. And what do you hope listeners take away from your music? Is there a particular message or feeling that you want to convey through your songs?
I'd like to bring traditional blues to people that might not know they like it or might not be familiar with it, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, playing blues festivals is great, blues clubs, but we also try to reach out and play rock festivals or just music festivals that might not have a lot of blues. Like we did a festival last week in Massachusetts called Green River. I think it's a 2 or 3 day festival, and we were the only blues band on it, and it was great. A lot of people had never heard of us, or I would guess maybe weren't blues fans before, and hopefully after they see us, maybe they become blues fans.
I'm sure they would. And looking ahead, what are your future plans and aspirations as the band? Are there any exciting projects or new directions you're exploring? I know you stated that you have a new album coming out.
Yeah, we have an album coming out. It's about a year out now. It's done. It's an acoustic album, so that's different for us. We've never done that. That's all done in the can, ready to go. And then we're going to start recording a new electric original album this January. As far as goals, just doing what we're doing and trying to do it as much as we can and reach more people. The more people that can hear blues music, and hopefully they like it. I think it's good for everybody.
Definitely. And let's end it with this. What would you say, like, as a message to someone who's like an inspiring blues artist that's just coming out there and trying to make a name for themselves, regardless of what state or country?
What would I say?
Yeah, like advice or a message, even.
I think what we've always said is we try to play music that we would like to listen to. I'm not chasing too many things. Like, it's in my back of my mind sometimes. Will this record be successful or this song be successful? But at the end of the day, I think it's more important and more fun if you can make records you like and then they become successful, or figure out a way to make those things you like successful after creating them, rather than follow trends or
Yeah,
I guess
100% agree with you.
That's a tough question. That's a deep question. But
Definitely, I agree with your answer 100%. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for giving me your time and doing this interview for us and your fans.
Thanks.